in conversation with Mr. Tabrik. The book Prisoner, Jailer, Prime Minister, authored by Mr. Tabrik, is a scorching account of menacing politics and the fascinating journey of a volatile personality. But is India's new Prime Minister a product of his genius or of his dangerous mind? Well, I think you'll have to read the book to find that out. So we have with us Mr. Tabrik, the author of the book, to discuss a lot of issues with you. Please have you on stage, sir.
I first bought your book, then I came here.
I can have it autographed.
Mr. Tabrik's special interest lies in observing, analyzing, predicting and debating the rise and fall of political personalities and their influence on the destiny of nations and individuals. Mr. Tabrik will now discuss with the audience the future of Indian politics.
Okay.
Can we have a loud round of applause, please?
Sorry. Well, I organized myself there. So here I am to talk about the future of Indian politics in association with my book, Prisoner, Jailer, Prime Minister. So what I've done is that I am going to refer to my book, take out portions and read them out to you, but not whole long paragraphs, and give my views, because coincidentally enough, and it's sheer coincidence, that a lot of things that are written in this book are happening around us today. Now this book was started sometime in the first week of January last year. So it's been about a year. It took me a year to write this book. And here it is. So let's start at the beginning. But what does a reader do when he or she gets the book for the first time? You look at the cover, look at the back cover, right? Right? So here is what it says. India has a new Prime Minister. Is he the product of his genius or of his dangerous mind? Right? So that's the catchphrase. Right? Today, politics around us is about personalities. That's my interest in politics, right? My interest is not so much political parties, but individuals who have taken the lead. Now, whether it's a Narendra Modi or it's a Jayalalitha, each one of them has their own way of conducting themselves on the Indian political stage. But necessarily so, because of the hype, because of the popularity, no doubt, and the controversies surrounding Narendra Modi, he has to be the linchpin of this discussion. In terms of this is what we all feeling, you know. There's a wave going through the country. He's going from north to south, east to west, drawing huge crowds, either manufactured crowds or real crowds. One really doesn't know, right? One doesn't know what are these crowds, right? So, I mean, in some areas there may be 3-4 lakhs of people, some maybe much less. But in Indian politics, traditionally what happens is it's the crowds that sets the pace, you know. And how does a news reporter or a TV channel actually gauge the mood of the people, right? I mean, nobody is conducting straw polls all over the place. They look at what's happening in these rallies, right? Now, in the case of Narendra Modi, let's start with him before we get back to the book. He has changed the face of politics in a sense that here is an individual without any family backing, like Rahul Gandhi, right? Or like Akhilesh Yadav, or like half a dozen we can mention over the years. This man has come up, but he's got a question mark. We'll talk about the question marks later. But the fact is he's risen right to the top very fast. चाय कड़वी हो रही है कि नहीं, that's a different bit. That's a different matter altogether. But the chai is there for everybody to have, right? So let's start with the book first before we make this into a Modi discussion, which I don't want to, but inevitably it is going to start. So we start with the prologue of the book. It starts 31st December 2016, 2 years down the line, right? So basically what this means is there's a general election, there is a government, and there is a midterm poll in 2016, in 2 years' time. Now, that is a very real political possibility today. Let us go into this general election with the view that no matter what, whether it is a BJP-led government or a third front-led government with Congress support behind, again a possibility, right? Again a possibility. There is always a chance that the government may fall. So I've gone with that premise, right? I've also gone with a whole lot of other things which we shall go into in the course of this hour that I have to talk to you. It's about politics per se. This is also a love story. It's a love story. It's also about a bipolar and a bisexual individual, right? So, without going into too much of detail, it becomes apparent, these strains become apparent in the book, which makes it more readable and makes it more interesting. So here we are. Let's start with a very dangerous premise, right? Now, I'm going to start and then I'm not going to read entirely from the book. A lot of it is my own words, right? But there are a few lines which come out of this. This is like a reminder for me to see these orange marks, right? So we start off with the prologue. Pokhara, the place of 5 mirages, Thar Desert, Rajasthan, right? It was time to visit the place of 5 mirages. The turbaned figure crossed the Rajasthan border at the dead of night and was met by the tall stranger on the Indian side. The smuggling route had been used for years, but the Indian and Pakistani border forces had never discovered the hole in their wall, the porous line dividing India and Pakistan, over 3,000 kilometers, was impossible to secure against the power of money and narcotics. Drug and currency smugglers were the real rulers here, and no army could stop them. Now that's a fact, actually. This big border that is there, interesting, this, as I researched this big border that is there, 3,000 kilometers, right? It has several of these holes, and you have all the drugs coming into Punjab and Rajasthan and all this, right, from the other side, namely. Also, you have arms coming in, but most important of all, what people don't realize is that currency is being smuggled in. We are talking about fake 1,000 rupee notes, fake 500 rupee notes, right? Manufactured in super state-of-the-art Chinese facilities, right? Coming through the Pakistani route, coming through the border. It is an insidious attempt by China and Pakistan, the two partners, to create a sort of economic disturbance. That is why a few weeks ago, you may have heard this little rumor from the BJP side that they were planning a demonetization if they come into power of the 500 rupee notes and the 1,000 rupee notes, right? But of course, that would have its own consequences in India because you'd have the property market here falling by 40%. So, no black money transactions, no 500 rupee notes, no 1,000 rupee notes means no black money transactions, basically for a while, right? And depending, at least for a period of time. So anyway, we get back to I divert. So through this little hole in the wall comes a turbaned man who regards himself as God's sword, right? He's met on the other side by a nice Land Rover, dead of night, just try and picture that. In the Land Rover, there is a tiffin box, a tin box. Like you see at the railway stations, those big tin trunks. My voice is loud enough. Anyway, so here they are. They're moving carefully through the sand. The winter mist is there. Sand-blown, wind-blown dunes. Shaded headlights cut through the, picture this, right? Shaded headlights, they're going down from the border, right? It's like a movie, isn't it? So it's coming down. They reach a point outside the nuclear testing range, Pokhara, right? We have a nuclear testing range there. Now, they don't enter the range, right? There's no border on the range. It's a deserted area in the middle of nowhere. That's why it was chosen, right? That's where all our nuclear testing takes place. Now, they stop that Land Rover behind a dune. And what happens? What happens when they stop it? The tall stranger, that's a stranger who has come on the Indian side, gives a small nod of satisfaction and opens the tin cover of the box and carefully punches the fluorescent keys on the smooth surface of the phallic-like steel tube. A red light starts blinking slowly. Soon, much before daybreak, the radiance of 1,000 suns will burn the cold desert night. The message to India was ready. I am death. I am the shatterer of worlds. This is from the Bhagavad Gita, by the way. It's blood-curdling actually. If the radiance, this was translated by a guy called Oppenheimer, right? There was this Manhattan Project which resulted in the formation of the atomic bomb, right? So Oppenheimer, when it was, he quoted this when he first revealed it to the world. If the radiance of 1,000 suns were to burst at once into the sky, that would be like the splendor of the mighty one. I become death, the shatterer of worlds, the Bhagavad Gita. Right? So what happens? It's obvious what happens. What happens? So I'm not spoiling the plot, but what happens is a small bomb the size of a suitcase, right, explodes in the Thar Desert outside our testing range, right? So that is how the book opens. And then we go to the plot. Someone else. New Delhi, 31st December 2016. About the same date, right? It's New Year's Eve, and I ride through the dawn in a black bulletproof car. With a life of their own, my fingers drum a silent rag on the misty window. Patterns of clear glass appear, and a slate-like emptiness filters through as we turn into Rajpath. All I can see is a wide, lonely road at daybreak, with Rashtrapati Bhavan slowly rising over the winter mist. The BMW slows, and we glide past the vast iron gates with stone piers. Sentries dressed in white and scarlet smartly present arms and autograph my arrival. Welcome Siddharth Tagore, the hero of this book. Right? So Siddharth Tagore is in fact coming to be sworn in as Prime Minister of India. And this is his story. Right? So we just go down and we reach. He meets the President. He's welcomed by the President early in the morning. Right? He's not chosen 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. He's a non-superstitious man. As he says during the book, he has this, he tells a friend of his in college that God and I, the distance between God and I, we are as distant as heaven and earth. Right? For him, it is something else. And what that something else you'll learn through the course of this book. So here we are. He's swearing in. And here it's important because here we link it to what's happening again in India. Mr. Kejriwal. Right? So I, Siddharth Tagore, solemnly affirm that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by law established. that I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India, and I will faithfully and conscientiously discharge my duties as Prime Minister. So on and so forth. So he becomes Prime Minister. And here we are about the Constitution of India, right? We owe, at least politicians owe their offices in this democratic state. It comes from Ambedkar's Constitution. That's where their power lies. That's why they exist. That's why the Chief Minister of Delhi exists. He exists because of the Constitution of India. So now we go to personalities. I mentioned Modi, I'll mention Arvind Kejriwal now, and the law minister was supposed to put in an appearance after me, right? Hopefully I won't shoot a few arrows at that point of time if I'm around. But in any case, so let's talk about game-changing politics. Let's talk about what Arvind Kejriwal, Chief Minister of Delhi, calls as, I'm an anarchist. Yes, I'm an anarchist. I don't think he's an anarchist. More probably he's a revolutionary, right? And it may be more aptly described as revolutionary. Now, he has disturbed the Constitution. So, I mean, for that he is going to face legal consequences. There is no doubt about it, right? There is no doubt that he and his law minister will have to go through the process of law which has been established by the Constitution of India. But, having said so, he has still rocked the boat. He has rocked the boat. He has disturbed, in a lot of people's view, but in a lot of people's view, he hasn't. They accept it. I mean, they say, okay, but there are people who say that, okay, you have a dharna at Rajpath, right? And you threaten to disrupt Constitution Day. Constitution Day is Republic Day. So if you disrupt Constitutional Day, you are anti-national. He said, yes, I will disrupt. But he drew back when better sense prevailed, of course. He would have been arrested, obviously. The Chief Minister would have been arrested had he disturbed the Republic Day parade. He would have been just lifted up and thrown out. I mean, because the Constitution would not permit that. So having said that, yet he is popular. I have no doubt he is popular. With the Aam Aadmi in Delhi, right? The disco-going crowd may have voted for him fashionably to start with. And now have gone, a few thousand of them have gone, right? They've gone back to black label and everything else. But there are a lot of people today he can't. But it's not that. It's the Kejriwal effect that is very. It's like a tsunami that's coming, right? A small tsunami in front of a big tsunami. So big tsunami is Modi tsunami, right? And suddenly you have a small tsunami and Modi is blinking saying, what is this? He's not supposed to be here, right? But he's here. That's a fact. And that tsunami, somehow, I mean, in Delhi we know that, okay, he's doing this, he's doing that, Bharti is doing something and he's going, I mean, he's being exposed on, last night I saw this program, it was scandalous. I mean, absolutely scandalous. Headlines today, India Today, saying the guy has owner of 50, 60 porn sites, right? I mean, can you imagine? Headlines today saying, here we have got proof. This guy, whoever is the, I mean, that's serious allegations, right? Of course, Bharti must be having his own point of view. But, so we have to see how this pans out. But it's a very serious, disturbance in our governance here. When you have a major news channel, viewed by all the powers that be, every member of parliament. I mean, it's not a good thing to happen. I can't understand why he's still there. But in any case, that's how Indian politics is playing out right now, right? So coming back to Kejriwal and Modi now, right? So here we have this small tsunami that's coming out. Now places like Maharashtra, places, his old mentor, right, is there in Maharashtra. And there is a feeling for Arvind Kejriwal in the big state of Maharashtra. But Maharashtra's got a lot of politics in it. It's got the Shiv Sena, it's got a whole... But there are also a lot of young people, right? And these young people, 40 downwards, right? Large voting bloc in the cities. Maharashtra's just got several cities, right? And what's happening there? They've heard of Aam Aadmi. They regard themselves as Aam Aadmi. They regard themselves as, going against the tide. Modi was their hero. But here's how somebody else who doesn't have a question mark, right? Who, there's a perception that maybe Kejriwal may be the thing. Now, 30, 40, 50 seats, 20 seats, God knows, people expect him to get 3 seats here in Delhi, right? He's chief minister. So people are saying, okay, no, he'll get 6, 7 seats across India. He's contesting 350 seats, 300 seats. What's going to happen? God knows. He may get 30, 40, 50, in which case there's a very serious problem for Modi, right? Because these are all BJP votes that are going, which would otherwise have gone to the BJP. Congress votes which would have gone across the thing too. So here we talk about the future of Indian politics and the rise of the state parties. Also bumped up by the Kejriwal effect, if it's there. God knows if it's there, but if it's there. So now what happens? Now you have state parties. Let's take 2. Let's take Mamata Banerjee, where Kejriwal has no effect at all. Now we take UP, right? You talk about Mayawati. Now, Mayawati has become a factor. The Samajwadi Party has become very unpopular. It's become unpopular with a lot of people. It's been unpopular with their vote bank, which is the Muslims, right? 20, 25, 30%. I have no idea what is the percentage, right? Mayawati, on the other hand, is gaining very fast. Very, very fast. And then if the Kejriwal effect comes into UP, it's close by, it can come into Haryana and UP. If it comes into the towns of UP, God knows whether he's able to manage it or not. But what is going to happen is the 30, 40, 50 seats that the BJP is expecting may come down, right? May come down to 10 or 20 seats instead of 40, 50, 60 seats. Now, if that happens, then Modi is history. Because Modi will be sitting in opposition. Because if you look at the demographics across the country, you take Mayawati, you take the 3 ladies of Indian politics, they are going to get a huge number of seats, irrespective of the Modis and the Kejriwals. So then what's going to happen? It's going to be a third front government. So then what happens? Because I'm supposed to be talking also about the future of Indian politics in addition to my book. What happens? What happens is, in my opinion, is that this third front effect is not so much of crazy talk. It could actually happen if the Congress gets, say, 100 seats, right? People are saying 50, 60 seats could be front, and it becomes a viable force, especially if the Congress party is supposed to be talking about minority governments, just like we had in Delhi. It's not falling. The government in Delhi is not falling. It should fall. It should have fallen on the second day, but it hasn't fallen. It's not. So same thing is going to happen to the central government. Doesn't mean that there may not be progress, things may not happen. Well, we've gone through rainbow politics before. We have gone, India has had experience of rainbow politics, right? I think that it's possible that they last 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years. You know, I say in my book, 2016, right? So you may have a coalition that lasts for 2.5 years, and then it comes down. And then it will be the time that Arvind Kejriwal, Rahul Gandhi, or his sister, God knows, or somebody else comes onto the national stage. Modi also at that point of time. So that, in my opinion, is a possibility. Everything is a possibility. I mean, to use the old cliche that, that a week is a long time in politics, sure it is. God knows what's going to happen. Mid-April maybe is when the voting starts. You go on to the middle of May, right? Results will be end of May, if I'm not wrong. And it's a long time still. Anything can happen. So you have dirty tricks departments. Let's talk something interesting. So dirty tricks departments will be in full swing. Complete swing. So you will have, like Subramaniam Swamy on headlines with Arnab Goswami last night, right? Saying with a stern, instead of usually smiling, making all sorts of comments about Rahul Gandhi. I shall not repeat them. You can go onto the net and see. But really, really disgusting comments in terms of the leader of the Congress party who is aiming to, you don't say these type of things. On the other side, they're talking also in the same way, but that they're talking about Modi's wife, whom he's kept hidden, right? You can keep your wife hidden if you want to, it doesn't matter. It's not a very big deal, right? They're trying to make it a big deal, which is not exactly fair, right? The man could have had many personal reasons for that. So that's okay. But yet it's there. Like, when you're on the national stage, expect that people will throw mud at you. Now, he made a silly comment about, which was politicized. I don't think he really meant, He talked about Kutte ke Pille, Modi, which became a very big communal scene, as though that he was talking about the Muslim community as a whole. Now, if you translate it into English, son of a bee, that's what it means, right? That's what Kutte ke Pille means, right? But I don't think Modi at the start of his political campaign would go and start alienating 15%, 20% of the Indian population by saying these things. I think he just said it, he tends to make these comments about women. He talked about the late Sunanda, Shashi's wife, in a most disparaging way, 20 crore women. What type of nonsense is this? I mean, you're not supposed to talk like that if you're going to be Prime Minister of India. You don't make these type of sexist comments, right? Now, this is very important. Here I come to this very important point about this, the saffron image that is there, right? Like the Congress party is controlled by one family, right? It's controlled by one family. It's controlled by the Gandhi family. It's controlled by Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi. The three of them are controlling the whole Congress party. The BJP is controlled by the RSS. It's just a difference there. It's controlled by Mohan Bhagwat and all that. So, now, look at the RSS. Now, RSS is a long history. You can vituperate about it. You can say everything about it, right? They call themselves a cultural organization. They call themselves everything. Bhagwat is now possibly going to be under investigation because of the revelations, right? So, okay, leaving all that aside, but yet the BJP is closely linked with this ancillary group and others. Now, again in headlines on Arnab's show last night, there was another ancillary organizer guy who made disparaging comments about Karkare, the guy who was shot during the assault on the Taj and assault on Bombay by terrorists, right? He says he is not a hero. He is not a martyr. This is the BJP's ancillary organization last night saying these words on national TV. Saying that Karkare is not a hero, Karkare is not a martyr. I mean, stupidity, right? So there a lot of such talk is going on. Now coming back to women, right? 50% of our nation, right? We are Mother India. We're not Father India, right? There is no third Reich coming up, right? At least I hope so. So there's no third Reich, it's our Matrabhumi, right? So now here you have the RSS. Very possibly a pracharak of the RSS, his lifetime he gave up his wife to make the RSS his wife, you know what I mean? So basically you have a man who's grown up in that tradition, who's grown up in the Golwar tradition, who's grown up in all this tradition, coming in as Prime Minister of India. Now, the RSS has never in its history admitted a woman. Women are banned. The word is not a question of being welcome. They are banned from the RSS. So basically, you're going to, India may well have a government in place, right? Which is, under Vajpayee's time, the RSS didn't have that type of hold, right? Didn't have that type of influence as it may have now, right, if the government is formed. Now, here we have this problem. You have this problem. So what is people like the leader of the BJP, who's a woman in the Lok Sabha, going to do? Why do you think she's against Modi? Why do you think, they can't stand Modi, right? She's a woman, never been able to get into the RSS, obviously not. And all this type of thing is going on. We have these things in Bangalore, cultural police. Now, cultural police, no, you can't use, it's like, as I mentioned in the book, which I shall read right now, you have cultural police roaming around discotheques, malls, targeting who? Not men. They're targeting the women, mostly, right? All ancillary organizations of the BJP. This has to be thought about. Now, by the way, all that I'm talking about is mentioned by Siddharth Tagore in this book. Now, I don't have to read out the parts because that will be like any other book reading, right? But let me assure you what I'm talking about. Like, it's about Siddharth Tagore's political philosophy. Now we come in to the other side. We talk about Rukmani Devi in this book. Rukmani, hello. Hello. My grandson. So what happened is Rukmani Devi. Now Rukmani Devi is the director of the Delhi School of Economics. Nobel Prize winner. Nobel Prize winner. She is what Arun Jaitley would be. Right? Soft. Modern Vedic age. And that revolution to change India can only happen if a presidential system is put into place in India to bring about fundamental shift in governance. Right? So now we are talking about this. Is there a constitutional place for a secular state? Right? Or can we not have a Vedic state distinct from any one religious flavor? Can democracy allow a corrupt elite class to pander to minority vote banks and divide the majority and cast its lines, thus ensuring victory with minimum electoral support? Can family-run inherited politics in every political party be allowed to rule India? So here we are. She gives her view of Vedic India. Now, she is like Arun Jaitley, right? So we have a strange possibility that can come into mind, right? Where yes, the BJP does get a fair amount of votes, but what is going to happen if the other votes they need, 100 or so votes, say, to form the government, 100 is a lot, Modi is not acceptable. But they say, okay, you have somebody in the Vajpayee wing, somebody who's acceptable and somebody who's an experienced administrator, somebody who's got all the qualifications. Arun Jaitley, leader of the BJP in the Rajya Sabha, right? Politician, lawyer, intelligent man, possible, more acceptable than Modi, more acceptable to a whole lot of people, right? Possibility. So here, this is what I'm here for, to talk about possibilities. So this is not an out-of-the-way possibility. It's not a possibility which is beyond reason, can happen. Now, so here is another bit of my theory that I put forward. I don't know how much time, I still got a little bit of time. Okay, so let's come to some more controversial bits. There's a chapter called Flames at India Gate. This was written over a year ago, right? And this was not inspired by Arvind Kejriwal. Right? So there's this guy called Akbar Shah. Now, well, who is Akbar Shah? He's a guy who hangs around Nizamuddin. He's got a stall that sells all sort of things, including charas. Right? To all the tourists who come by. He speaks good English because that's his vocation. He's picked it up from, he not only speaks English, he speaks French, he speaks German, right? He converses with all the tourists. They all come to see the tomb where he stands in front. He's an interesting character. So he's an interesting character who, lovable character who's there for his own economic benefit. And he plays a significant part in terms of a bit character. He has a bit role in the book. So in this particular role that he has other roles also, he keeps popping in and out. But here, he said, Akbar Shah wears that Flames at India Gate. Akbar Shah wears that yellow wind cheater he had bought from CP during the sale at the day, where it doesn't stop the freezing cold. Too expensive, much too much. Well, back it goes to where it belongs. He'll have a lot to tell them at that big shop next to the Odeon. Plenty of other high-class clothes available in Connaught Place. Very cheap. Right? He can feel the wind. He can feel it in his bones. So, here there's a firelight. Strange firelight. It's middle of the night, almost. Right? New Year's Eve is coming. There are 100,000 people who've come to celebrate New Year's Eve. Like every year, right? So they're there, but suddenly there are firelights. Look at those fire torches all over. They're coming from the side roads and coming into Rajpath. So he says, so bye, like he offers a bacha next to him, his small, precious bottle of dark rum. But the Buddha says no and holds his torch above his head. Watch it, you fool, or you'll burn somebody. Who are they? Why are they here? Where have they come from? Akbar's thoughts somehow make him feel colder than the wind tonight. Minutes before midnight, loud sounds from India Gate rise, high in wave. The torches have started to move on, orderly, like troops or something. They collect in front of India Gate and start to move down Rajpath. In the distance, at the end of the wide road, he can see the burnished copper glow of Rashtrapati Bhavan. Midnight arrives, and with a rising roar, and with it another year runs away. He feels the excitement of being alive and wants to dance on and on. But the torches have started to sway slowly. Flames crisscross in the air. They beckon him to follow down Rajpath. Rashtrapati to Rashtrapati Bhavan, to Rashtrapati Bhavan. Why? No, he wants no part of this. Neither do the beautiful wild girls in skirts he sees all around. They must feel safe now that Siddhartha Tagore is PM. No more cultural police in khaki shorts hanging around. The short pants must have run far and fast to join the Taliban in Afghanistan after the change of government. Jai Hind. So this is his view, right? So this is his view that comes in. And I won't tell you what happens next, but obviously Rashtrapati Bhavan stays on, right? That's not the thing. So you hear the progress of a prime minister over the year, over a certain period of time. It's an interesting story. Now, I won't go into some of the more controversial parts of the book at this stage. They involve sex, they involve a whole lot of things, but you'll have to read it if it catches your interest, right? You'll have to read Prisoner Jailer Prime Minister and talk about it. So, okay, I'll leave you there right now. I think that I have been a one-man show for long enough, and we have got enough time to talk about this, or talk about politics. Pretend you're an Arnab Goswami's soul. Right? Pretend all of you have had that dream, right? I'm sorry to single him out, but he's entertaining. Right? Correct?
Too loud.
It's okay. That's what masala movies are all about, right? So that's where you have to draw people, you have to get people to...
My first question is that when you say that this book started a year ago, what part of this has been finished this year?
Nothing. The editorial process is very long drawn out. This was finished in October last year, right? And then it went through October, November, December. It went into editing and printing. And editing is there, to correct the mistakes. And,
So this has been your calculation, fragment of imagination.
It's not. It's all. This is a lie. It's fiction. What is fiction? Fiction is a lie, right? So when you're writing as an author, it's an instinctive process, right? Maybe your own theories come. Maybe I'm not going to vote for Modi, right? Maybe I vote for Arun Jaitley.
Your choice. Yeah.
Right? I may vote for Arun Jaitley if he's the leader. I may vote for the BJP like that, but I may not vote for it like that. So that is the issue with perhaps a person like me, and maybe a lot of people, right? And that's what the politicians are also going to understand. So here, in your case, this was an instinctive process. It was a process where I sat down and it came, right? The story came. So it's about rock and roll. He's fond of the Beatles, right? He's fond of a whole lot of things, and it comes out in the book. He's also a very competent administrator. He's also a courageous man, right? He's also a dangerous man. I have to give this little aside, right? So what does he do? I go back, right? So here his first act as Prime Minister. This is interesting. That is suddenly thought of it. So this has not been pre-prepared. I just found out. The director of the IB was a mind reader of sorts on the jihadi terrorist mentality. He was coldly clinical and decided to brutally confront me with the reality of his dagger sharp word. So he tells the Prime Minister what the problem is about the jihad in a page or so. Then he turns to the other head of the intelligence service, the RAW, the better known, that's also quite well known, right? Now I turn to the head of the research and analysis wing. He was an unobtrusive Tamilian who, as a young operative, had been a primary agent in Jaffna during the Sri Lanka crisis. With a reported Mensa level IQ touching 150, right? He had the reputation of being cunning and ruthless. He was by far the most dangerous man in the room and wore a perpetual sneer, which he was right now wearing, directed at me. The man had only contempt for politicians, right? So Siddhartha Kaur basically tells him that he has to arrange for known jihadi terrorists and their perpetrators to be taken out. Terminate with extreme prejudice, right? Terminate with, it means basically assassinate them, right? This is what, so here we have a thing. I presume this order is off the record. You presume, right, Director? Having said that, you can go for the jihadi jugular. You have my verbal authorization to do what is necessary to protect us silently and surely, and make absolutely sure there is no way it can be tracked back here to 7 RCR, or there will be literally hell to pay. Yes, sir. And that was it. My first, probably insane act as Prime Minister. Right? So this is a frightening proposition. Right? Where you have a Prime Minister who may actually order. Now, Modi is trying very hard, sorry to come back to Modi, that he's not like that. He's not made a single such dramatically terrorizing speech across the nation, but people who are with him have. Recently in UP, during a very big rally, the people who are doing the other speeches, the bit players, are talking about retribution, talking about going across the border, talking about, this can have an equal and opposite reaction. This jihadi terror can be just stoked. So you need a particular type of person. You need a Vajpayee, to tell you the truth. You need a man like Vajpayee who is leading this nation, a man who can engage. So Vajpayee had his faults, big faults. And one is not only the fact that he was unable to stop Modi when Modi was Chief Minister. He was very upset about it, but he could do nothing. Right? Because for some reasons of his own, he could do nothing. But otherwise, Vajpayee was a pretty successful Prime Minister, even though he got voted out of office. Right? So we have these different elements. I keep bringing them in because they're all part of the book, right? So here, sorry, any more questions?
Have you concluded anything? You have described this, that.
The conclusion is there at the beginning. Here I show a third front government led by Siddharth Tagore coming into power for 2 years, supported by the Congress party outside. This is the conclusion in the book. And it comes in the first few pages. This is how he's come. So when he goes to when he goes to the president has the morning paper, and the morning papers describe this, right? So we are showing the first 2-3 pages of the book. So please understand that this is...
Why you have hidden the word Hindu Rashtra in the entire book?
Because I don't think India can be a Hindu Rashtra, but I do think India can be Vedic India. I do think it can be democratic Vedic India. I don't think, and I think most people would go for that. Right? Most people would go for that in this country. But I don't see the hard word. Why should it be like Pakistan? Why should it be like Pakistan, a Muslim Rashtra? You're putting yourself on the same plane. Look what's happened to that country. It's a failed state. Are you laying the base for eternal strife in this country?
You have taken a different side. I am saying the base of Modi and his future and his goal and imagination is to have an Hindu Rashtra.
Yes.
Behind that, this
well, I don't know whether it is. I don't know because I don't think even Modi thinks that he is going to get 270 seats. But if he does, to change the constitution there are several lawyers here, right? To change the constitution is not going to happen because unless they have the third front with them, they cannot change the constitution. The constitution can only be changed by the support of everybody, all the states.
You just mentioned while giving the Rukmani Devi erudition as a school of economics.
Yes.
You had at length written about the Vedic state, the Vedic arithmetic,
yes.
The Vedic constitution,
yes.
The Vedic governance.
Yes.
Would you like to expound on what exactly do you imply by Vedic? Because where the Vedas are concerned...
I understand what you mean.
Because the Vedas are concerned, they is something other than about Indra.
I'll tell you what I mean.
No, because you made a distinction with Hindu.
Yeah. No, you see...
You made a distinction that no, I don't mean a Hindu Rashtra in response to the gentleman's question.
Yeah.
You said no, probably a Vedic Rashtra.
You see, a Vedic is a soft term. Vedic is a soft term.
Meaning what?
It means a light shade of saffron. a pleasant shade of saffron, where you can have a lot of green also around, just like our flag.
But no,
you can have
found in
right?
there is no Vedic.
True.
There is no Vedic philosophy with regard to politics.
Maybe there may not be any. There may not be a Vedic political philosophy,
Or Vedic
but here Rukmani Devi has created the concept which she thinks is a political winner, right, of a Vedic India. Not everybody will think as deeply as you, right, but they may say, oh yes, you get the point, right? Yes, please.
It's not a Mahajanpat concept. The Vedic concept is very much Mahajanpat concept, it's smaller space. Mahajanpat.
It's an administrative concept, it's not a political concept.
Yeah.
It's an administrative concept.
Yeah, is it the third Ved, Yajur Ved, Sam Ved? Which?
Okay, what gentleman is now? Yeah, please.
It's not a question, it's a query.
Yeah, please.
Has your book been reviewed by any...
No, today is...
Number one, has it been evaluated?
No.
Number two question.
No. It hasn't been
Would you
reviewed.
be kind enough
Yes.
and true enough
Yes.
to share your sympathy, the details of the sympathies, your sympathies lies with which party?
Oh, my sympathies. You want to know my position? Oh, yes. I have a very big...
Those sympathies must be...
Yeah. No, not necessarily. You know what an author does? You know what an author does? An author creates a world which is fictional, right? So,
It's a fiction.
right, you talk about lies, right? The author creates everything. Like, so you have a gay streak in this book also. I'm not a gay. So, I'm a liberal. I accept what they are.
I mean, you vote to go for voting. Which is your preference? Can you share that?
Yes, you're pinning me down. Okay. Okay, here in Delhi, in the Greater Kailash constituency, where I have to vote, right? I did not vote this time because of administrative reasons. I was living in Gurgaon temporarily, and I couldn't come to vote. Now, I would have had a tough time. I am anti-BJP, I am anti-Congress, I am anti-Kejriwal. So now, who do I vote for? No, none.